Hello everybody, this is Dr. Cole. It is Sunday afternoon, August 28th. We're now entering week 2 of Political Science 1013 on the first 8-week schedule for the fall 2022 term. Okay everybody, we've been running a discussion. Many of you will be seeing this announcement Monday. Monday will be the last day of the discussion. It will run through midnight Monday. You're asked to discuss what you think of the idea of violent resistance against the government and whether you ever would take part in such a thing. Okay? And we've given you some readings on that topic. And please try to have posted twice by midnight Monday. Post once initially and offer your thoughts on the topic, and then try to respond to at least one of your classmates by the end of the discussion period, which will be midnight tomorrow night, Monday. Okay, everybody, after that, our exam is coming up Saturday, September 3rd, in not quite a week. And it will be over Units 1 and 2, plus 4 articles we have asked you to access on the internet. And you can expect 10 or 15 of your 50 test items to come from these 4 articles. Okay. You have an article called Americans Aren't Practicing Democracy Anymore, from the Atlantic Monthly, going back a couple of years ago, in which the author suggests some of the things that the schools might do to strengthen democracy, but that doesn't involve putting on additional courses for you to take. See what he says about that and see what you think. You have an article from the New York Times, and if you look at that article, it turns out that it's about Enid, Oklahoma, and political activity in Enid, Oklahoma, especially about mask mandates for that city during the pandemic, and how citizens of Enid, Oklahoma divided along that issue, and how they took up action and took action on that issue. Okay, see what you think about that. It's a good example of contemporary political activity by people like you, perhaps, in a place not far from where you are. Okay, you have an article by Mr. David French from his own website, where he contributes to a website called The Dispatch, about how religious differences are driving partisan differences between the two political parties. Finally, you have an article from the Boston Globe by Matthew Continenti about Donald Trump and his hold over the Republican Party. Okay, so those are 4 things for you to look at before the exam, in addition to your class notes for Units 1 and 2. Okay, so those 4 articles we're asking you to read, expect 10 or 15 of the exam items, 50 in all, to come from those articles. The remainder, 35 or 40 or so, largely be based on your class notes for Units 1 and 2. Okay. Let me say a bit about what we try to cover in Units 1 and 2. We didn't get to do that last week, I don't think, because we were trying to go over the syllabus and course requirements for you. Right. Unit 1 deals with participation, political participation. And we start out by going through different ways you can participate, all the way from voting to running for public office. Furthermore, participation can be conventional or unconventional. It can take the form of protest, which can become violent, although not necessarily so. And that would include things like the protests in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, protests in association with the Tea Party movement going back a couple of years ago, and certainly the events that took place at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, 2021. Okay, so think about that. Now then, perhaps the most important way of participating, in the sense that it's the way we choose who holds public office, is elections. And so we say quite a bit about elections in this unit. There are 2 questions to think about: vote choice and turnout. Okay, now we would be interested perhaps in how people make their vote choice. You say we were trying to predict the outcome of an election. Why do people vote for the Democrats or the Republicans, or for one candidate or another? And we talk about that to quite a large extent. But before that, there's the question of turnout, because the thing about it is, in our country especially, some people vote and others do not. And it turns out the voters and non-voters are different kinds of people. So maybe the voters are not representative of the whole population, which some people see as a problem. So why do some people turn out and others not? Okay, so we treat that question of turnout before we move on to vote choice. Right? Everybody, at the very beginning of those notes, at the beginning of Unit 1, I say a little bit about democracy in general, which you want to take a little while looking at. Many people think democracy is in some trouble in our country and that we're going through a period of democratic backsliding. So see what you think about that. Then the rest of that unit is taken up with different ways of participating. And then we move on to elections, in particular, the questions of turnout and vote choice. Then Unit 2 covers parties and pressure groups, organizations that try to influence the political system. Okay? Now, there are two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. There are perhaps many thousands of pressure groups. We discuss what political parties do, why there are only two of them in the United States, two major parties, and that has a lot to do with the way we've made the rules of the game. Okay? Once we do all of that, we try to look at the history of the Republicans and the Democrats going back at least to the 1930s, the time of the Great Depression, World War II, and the presidency of Franklin D. Roosevelt, up to the present day. We want to look at the twists and turns that the parties have taken in that period of time, and changes in the kind of people who support one party or the other. And there's been some important changes in recent times. Okay? And the Donald Trump era may have consolidated some further changes in the kinds of people who support one political party or the other. Right? Then we move on to pressure groups to finish up the material for the exam. Okay, now, pressure groups are narrower than political parties. They generally don't run candidates for political office, but they try to influence the system behind the scenes by hiring lobbyists to try to talk to, influence, and provide information to people in the government, especially members of Congress. They may also make campaign contributions. Some of them will be familiar to you. The AARP, the National Rifle Association, the AFL-CIO, the American Medical Association, the American Bar Association, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Those are among the larger, more prominent pressure groups. The American Farm Bureau Federation. There are many, many thousands of them. Some of them are professional organizations, like the Bar Association, the Medical Association, who also engage in lobbying. But one point I try to make is, for every profession practiced, for every occupation, for every product produced, almost, there will be a pressure group on behalf of the interests of the people in that profession, that occupation, the people who make that product and provide that service. So we discussed the range of the different kinds of pressure groups. Most of them are focused on the economic interests of their members. Not all, but most of them are, for the sake of the economic interests of their members. Look at the activities that they engage in, and there are several different kinds. Lobbying and campaign contributions being very important. Then we try to look at the legal regulations affecting pressure groups, according to which they are allowed to do this, because there are some legal constraints on what the pressure groups can do. Right, that in a nutshell is your material for the first exam coming up on this Saturday, September 3rd, after we finish our discussion tomorrow, Monday, August 29th. Then after that, we'll be doing the exam on Saturday the 3rd. Once we get through with that, we'll be rolling out assignments for yet another exam, and I think another discussion before the midterm exam. So take a look at those articles you've been assigned, and especially the class notes for Units 1 and 2. And we hope you will contribute to the discussion that finishes up tomorrow, Monday. Okay. Now, when I talk to you next week, the exam more than likely will be over. If you look at this, the announcement that's coming up, you look at it on Sunday the 4th, so the exam will be over. We'll have quite a bit to say to you then next time about Units 3 and 4 on the mass media and on the Constitution. All right, so we'll take up all that next time. In the meantime, good luck. Hope you contribute to the discussion, and good luck on the exam. We'll talk to you again next weekend. Most of you will see that announcement on Sunday the 4th or Monday the 5th after you've taken the exam on Saturday the 3rd. So take it easy, study hard for the exam. Please take part in the discussion. Good luck, and we'll talk to you a week from now at this time.